Ugh, I don't know. Should I review this one? I feel like it's just gonna stir up so much controversy. I mean, Chrono Cross is so good. Ah, they're gonna hate it. No, they're gonna love it. Maybe I should just talk about Silent Hill Downpour instead. You know what? No, screw this. We're gonna talk about Chrono Cross. Hey friends, I'm Pragmatik, and I like to talk about video games. And the game I want to talk about today is Chrono Cross. Now, if you like the classics, you probably already know about Chrono Trigger, but you may not know about its sequel. This game was kind of dismissed as convoluted and not really deserving of the Chrono title, but I feel like there's so much good in this game that I can't just not talk about it. So let's get into it! Chrono Cross was released in November 1999 by Squaresoft. With Chrono Trigger being released around 4 years prior, fans were begging for a new installment in the game's world, and the power of the PS1 was just the place to show off what the team had made. Calling it a direct sequel would be pushing it, as this installment saw a new cast of characters and even a new part of the world. Our story begins with our silent protagonist, Surge, making his way through a fortress with some companions we don't know yet, making their way to take someone down. Before we get to our main showdown, we're shown some ominous scenery before realizing that we're actually dreaming. Being woken up by your mom, who scolds you for sleeping the day away. Sound familiar? She tells you to meet up with your potential girlfriend, who wants you to gather some Komodo dragon scales for a necklace. Basically, do the tutorial level. It's after this little segment that the game really takes a change in pace. And I mean like 0 to 100. I really like the design for Surge. His design is nice and he keeps that silent protagonist appeal that makes him relatable to the player. The game shifting away from the art of Akira Toriyama is sad, but nothing feels lost with this game's art, and some of the cutscenes are breathtaking for a PS1 game. After getting the necklace and having a sweet exchange with Lena, Surge seems to hear a voice, something from somewhere else calling out to him. It's here that the bazaar begins, and before he realizes it, he's crossed over into another dimension. This isn't apparent until you meet up with Lena again, only for her to not recognize you. She informs you that you look like a boy she knew, a boy that passed away 10 years ago, a boy named Surge. Yes, it slowly becomes apparent that not only are you in a new dimension, but you're in a dimension where you don't exist among the living. And here is a major staple of the game. Whereas Chrono Trigger dealt with time periods, Chrono Cross deals with dimensions. One where you survived a brutal attack, and one where you didn't and were lost at sea. It's around this point that you meet Kid, a spunky thief who assists Surge in learning more about this new dimension, as well as helping him traverse between dimensions using her amulet. This all leads up to the two banding together with other characters in an attempt to steal the Frozen Flame, an item that is as powerful as it is mysterious. Not only that, but they pursue the game's main antagonist Lynx, an anthropomorphic feline that also seeks the power of the Frozen Flame. Chrono Trigger did a great job in making an engaging battle system. But Chrono Cross didn't really skip in this department either, going as far to make a really in-depth and engaging battle system that never really got monotonous. This system lets you choose a light, strong, and fierce attack option. Each option does more damage than the last, but with a decreased percentage of actually hitting your target. Beyond that, certain characters can do combined attacks with each other if they are connected in some way. There's also a unique as well as an important elemental system. It's pretty much equipping your characters with magical abilities, but instead of just having them, each character has an elemental alignment, so adding their element type to them makes their attack stronger, and doing the same elemental attack type makes the field themed to that element, further increasing the element's power. Furthermore, each element is strong and weak against other elements, so this really makes you want to add a variety of elements to your character, as well as giving them elements of their own type to keep the enemies at bay. But don't forget that enemies have their own elemental type as well. There is also a stamina gauge that you have to be wary of. Spamming fierce attacks will deplete your gauge quickly, so try mixing up your attacks to keep from exhausting your character. This all helps to retain that engaging feeling that Chrono Trigger is originally credited for. The elements, attacking style, and group attacks really make for an in-depth battle system. One that adds diversity, but at the same time never really seems overbearing. This game never feels like a grind as you level up pretty frequently, and I never recall needing to hang around an area to get stronger for the next area. Stronger weapons had to be forged from materials you find around the world, and I think that also helps against having to grind for funds to accommodate 45 characters. You heard right, there are 45 playable characters in this game. Have you ever had the problem of playing an RPG and just not liking a character or two? Well, it'd be hard to find someone you didn't like in this game, unless you just kind of dislike everyone. While to some not the best decision, it's hard to deny that adding 45 unique characters can add for a layer of fun. Not every character is obtainable in one playthrough, but this makes for a lot of replayability, and we'll get to that in a bit. You'd think that the abundance would put a dent on development, but it's simply not the case. Each character has a goal and a reason for joining you, which is impressive. The way in which you obtain these characters isn't overwhelming either, as you can only attain certain characters at certain times, and some of the characters join you in an event that happens later in the game. One aspect of this game that I absolutely love is that there are multiple paths to get to one destination. A good example of this is when you try to sneak into Viper Manor. The game has you travel to the city of Termina to try and find a way to sneak into the manor. You can try sneaking in through a forest path, teaming up with this character to try and sneak into the manor, or just do what I did. Find the hero's medal, present it to this guy Pierre, and let him try to get into the manor at the front gate. And when that doesn't work, you smash your way in. These multiple paths really help to break the linearity of the game. In order to talk about some bigger aspects of this game, I have to go into some spoiler material, even discussing the final boss. So if you haven't played this game yet, I recommend pausing the video and go beat the game. I'll wait. Did you guys hear about Streets of Rage 4? I'm pretty excited. Alright, you done playing? Alright, cool. Remember that dream we had in the beginning of the game? Well, it wasn't as much of a dream as it was a premonition. Playing through the game brings you to Fort Dragonia. This is where everything changes, as it puts you face to face with Lynx, and while it seems you have this fight in the bag, Lynx pulls a total Captain Ginyu and uses an item known as the Dragon's Tear to swap Surge's body with his own. To be perfectly honest, this is the most mind-blowing moment to me. To see this scene play through and to slowly watch Surge get up and mutter the words, "I'm fine." Never before in this point in my life had I seen an established silent protagonist start talking. And we as the player know something's wrong, that this probably isn't us, but that moment was just so startling to me. Playing for so long and suddenly seeing words in Surge's text box could only be a red flag for the player. This accompanied with the fact that Surge's photo icon isn't the same either. It's darker and it doesn't contain that sunny smile we were used to, as it's now replaced with a smile with hidden intent. I've never seen a game turn like this, and the suddenness of it all really gets to you. See these characters you've traveled with for hours suddenly drawing their weapons at you, while you can do nothing to tell them that something's wrong, something is different, something, or rather you, have changed, and it's genius. At this point, you can't win against your friends, and you probably aren't even sure if you want to. Of course our companions are dumb and don't notice. I say that lightly, but it's not a light moment. Kid is tricked, but she soon figures it out. but it's far too late for her to do anything to help you. She's not dead, but at this moment, you can't save her, you can't save anyone, you can't even save yourself. This is the part where it feels like you're playing for the first time all over again. This is where everything changes. From this point, you play as Lynx. This gives you great insight to other characters that you may have not even considered the goals and ambitions of. In place of Kid, you're now accompanied by Harley. She's fully aware that you're Surge in Lynx's body and kinda serves as a double agent. Being the villain makes for a unique narrative and is just generally something you don't see in many RPGs. And that's what I love about Chrono Cross. It just takes so many steps to be something different. A good chunk of this game is devoted to getting your body back, as well as figuring out what happened to you in this dimension. The constant twists and turns of this game really help to keep it interesting. It's also thrilling to see your main character take on a different playstyle altogether. But I don't want to give you every detail about that. I want you to play and unravel the part of the story for yourself. From this point on, I do want to touch on the final boss. And with that, a big, obvious spoiler warning. So skip to here if you don't want to hear about this part quite yet. It should go without saying that eventually you do get your body back, and find out that the overall boss, the source in which every aspect of this game nearly revolves around, is someone we met before. I've always liked to think of Chrono Cross as a spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger rather than a sequel. Despite this belief, there are a lot of elements in this story that serve to tie the two games together. Really, the whole game is connected with the original characters that I really won't get into. I don't want to spoil everything, just to touch on certain things in this game that truly make it a legend. This is another big thing I wanted to talk about. An element I've never seen done before, and haven't seen since. Most RPGs will have you take on the final boss when you've leveled up and feel you're strong enough to take on the final challenge. And in this game, you have that choice. You have that option. But in the true theme of Chrono Cross, it's just a choice. And it's not even really the right one. No, this game has a different way to beat the final boss, and it's with a song. We've established that there are different elements you can use in battle, but what you learn later in the game is that the elements also act as notes for a song. If you use the right elemental moves in the right order, you can win the game in a completely different way, and it's honestly one of the greatest endings to a game. It's such a unique idea to try and defeat the final boss by doing something other than brute force. But that's just what I love about Chrono Cross. The theme of this game is always offering you to take a different path. Whether it's by traversing dimensions, having different choices to solve a problem, or building multiple paths to one destination, it's what the game is all about. And I think that's what makes this game so good. It's amazing to see what your death in this dimension changes in this world, to go between dimensions and see what changes and what remains the same. Even taking something from one dimension and helping someone in the other shows how positive differences can be made. And like Chrono Trigger before it, you get a New Game Plus option, which lets you go in with all your strength and take the paths you didn't take in the first playthrough. Plus you're able to fight the final boss at any time in the game, which makes for multiple endings. I can see how people think this game didn't live up to what Chrono Trigger built, but I find it unfair to think it's not good enough to be praised for everything it did. With a playstyle that can keep you hooked for hours, plenty of lovable characters to get involved with, and a soundtrack that is so sensational that I would even recommend checking it out even if you have no interest in this game. This game did so much right and deserves praise for what it did. This was one of my favorite games as a kid, and I hope you'll pick it up and save this dimension as well as the next. You never know what's on the other side. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. I've really wanted to do a review of this game as it was one of my favorites growing up. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more, and drop a like and share this video if you'd like. As always, keep it practical.